do want this final point we'll make before we end today's show. Here we go to my iPad. I want you to see the New York Times did an 8,000-word, 8-page investigation on the finances, the taxes of Trump and his family. The headline, Trump engaged in suspect tax schemes as he reaped riches from his father. It details with not opinion,
1
but
million to 60 million.
Yeah.
1 million. I only got $1 million. I became a self-made man. And 1 million is nothing to sneeze at. I wish my parents would give me 1 million to get
Yeah, no
started.
kidding.
But he actually got 60 million.
But in real dollars, in essence, 413, more than $400 million. They showed.
But bottom line, he lied.
Oh, he lied. But here's the piece that you said earlier. They put in this story, and they actually criticized their own newspaper. One of the earliest stories the New York Times did on Donald Trump, where he was riding around in this silver limousine paid for by his daddy.
Right.
That he had $200 million, and the Times printed it.
Right.
And the reason that man is sitting in the White House now is because national media sucked up to Donald Trump.
Right.
And they believed the lies. And they let that man go on television presenting himself as this great businessman, which was a lie.
That which you ignore, you empower.
And let me tell you something, Joe.
And they've empowered him all the way.
And I'm going to tell you this here. When I was at CNN, I remember Wolf Blitzer used to always interview Donald Trump. And I went to one of the bookers, Stephanie Katubi, and I said, why in the hell do y'all keep putting Donald Trump on? And it's like, oh, every time Donald comes on, we get great ratings. I said, go talk to real CEOs, people who have real companies. And let me tell you something. We were on, this is when he was coming on Piers Morgan that night. And I was on CNN. And I was on one of the daytime shows, and I think it was, I forgot the anchor who was on. And I said this. I said, anytime Donald Trump comes on CNN, we should run a crawl at the bottom that says, for entertainment purposes only. I got an email from Ken Jouts, the executive vice president of CNN, telling me, do not criticize Donald Trump when he is coming on CNN. And I said, hell no. Wow. And that, he did. And that night, when Obama was giving some speech, and I think it may have been a joint session of Congress, it was something dealing with taxes or something along those lines, the economy, Donald Trump was on Piers Morgan's show. And I just said, the hell with what Ken Jouts had to say. So I start tweeting. Like, why in the hell is this dude on? I said, of all CEOs in America, that's the only one we can somehow find, because here's why they kept calling him. Because he was extravagant, because he was loud, because he was garish, because he had a bloated attitude, because he talked big. They loved the flash. They loved the gold tower. They loved hanging out with him. They loved going to the parties. And it was national media. It was a New York Post, the Daily News, the New York Times, it was a New York Observer, it was CNN, it was I can go down the line, all of these networks.
But get to what Les Moonves said.
Putting him on.
Get to what Les Moonves said. He's making them money. And Donald Trump understood that from the very beginning, that he was making the media money. In New York, where we have the two major tabloids, which in their heyday, with 1980s, 1990s, Daily News and the New York Post, he knew that was a symbiotic relationship. He was making money for them.
Moonves said it. And you get this quote. I play it almost once a week. Donald Trump may be bad for, now this is what he said.
Yes, he did.
Bad for America, but he's good for CBS. Now, let me tell you something. Anytime a CEO of a major corporation says that this man that we promote is bad for the country, but he's good for my company, that is unpatriotic and un-American.
And dangerous.
Oh, of course it's dangerous. Because I'll say it and I'll end with this. That's what Hitler did. You know what Hitler, who Hitler made, what was the enemy? You know what Hitler said? He said, we're going to make Germany great again. And his biggest enemy was the media, was the press. He declared them the press. The parallels are frightening.
The dictators go after the press.
And we cannot become a nation of onlookers, and we cannot keep making excuses.
Kim Trump, of course, he trashed this particular story, but he did not counter the details in it. The fact of the matter is, it was exhaustive. They actually looked at tax returns, broke this whole thing down. At the end of the day, there were suspect things that were actually done when it came to taxes and how they were actually cheating when it comes to saving money.
The only reason he's not showing his taxes is he's got something to hide.
He knows exactly. Kim, go ahead.
It's Joe done.
No, Joe done.
Oh, I'm never done.
Also think about the time period. I mean, just that amount of money right now is a lot. Just think about then. But yeah, so, you know, you can say a lot about President Trump. You know, I know a lot of people do not favor him at all, especially in the GOP. And that's how it goes.
The sad part is he's a master manipulator that unfortunately so many in the press have fallen for. That part is the press's fault. The fact that he's able to manipulate to that level and get away with it and not be called on it is the fault of many in the press.